Hello and welcome to another Verybe YouTube video. This episode will be very special from two reasons. First, the whole video will be in English and you will see why. And second, our guest. We'll have a guest. It's Blaze. He's our energy consultant in Texas and he helps us to negotiate energy contracts. And I mentioned the whole process in previous videos. So we'll go through different topics, including what is ERCOT, what difficulties and challenges we are facing, how to get the best price in Texas, and so on. So, and because the interview we made was quite long, we decided to split it up into two videos. So this week you'll see the first half, and next week you will see the second half. So if you want to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe, and let's get into it. Yeah, well, hello.
Hi.
Hello. How are you? To our Verybe YouTube channel.
Yes, I'm pretty excited. We're in Washington Square, New York City.
It's nice here. Thanks for taking me here. Cool. Well, to get started, please introduce yourself briefly. What's your background experience? What do you do?
Sure.
And why you work with us?
It's been an honor to work with you guys. It's been great.
Thank you.
So Blaze, been in the energy business for about 10 years, in so much that I've been a electricity and natural gas procurement consultant, which is basically, long story short, is help and advise folks that are on the grid how and where and when and what they could actually do with buying electricity, buying natural gas. Anywhere from pizza shop to, very large consumers of electricity, natural gas, and all of the technical details in between that, all over the country, including Canada, Mexico. So a lot of states, a lot of different grids, different rules. Been doing that for 10 years. Been with the firm that I would now for 8 of that. And I was with a supplier before, and what happened was I realized that there was a lot of... you have to have a lot of tools in this type of business to be effective. So
You're saying suppliers, so
yeah.
Can you just briefly explain where is your place right now in the supply chain, in the whole energy market? Because not everybody understands how it works. Here, our viewers are mainly from Czech Republic, so just explain, if you can explain it.
There are deregulated electricity markets in some European countries. So the concept of having choice as an electricity consumer.
Choice of
It's
your
kind of a-
supplier.
Yes, whoever's supplying you the electricity. And that is done financially, right? In a marketplace, there are many competitors in the given states that it's allowed. So, for example, in certain states in the U.S., there's only it's what we call vertically integrated, where the suppliers and the utilities and the person supplying and delivering you the electricity is all kind of one company. In this example, for the choice states, they have the ability to choose your electricity supplier. Who delivers the power is non-negotiable. That is
Right, because they own the physical infrastructure, the poles, the wiring, and everything, right? And just
correct.
So in Texas specifically, so if we start from the top down, so it would be the power generators, it would be somebody who delivers, who owns the grid, and then we have some suppliers.
Yep.
Right. Then it's you, our brain, who helps us to negotiate the best terms.
I forgot to answer that, but I can answer that.
That's and then it's us as customers, right? Like, did I miss anything? Is there any?
So I tell people there's a physical, so with just say electricity, but all energy really has kind of these 3 buckets of process flow, like organization, like how you could just plug your cell phone into a wall, right? How does that happen? You have the financial side, you have the physical side, and you have the regulatory side.
Right.
For electricity specifically, you have the suppliers, which flow into that financial side because they're buying wholesale. Right. You then have us, where we help manage the supply situation and help give you the best market price available, right? With the best terms.
Yep.
That's where we come in. But then obviously, so what's the physical side then, right? The physical side is what you're saying, like the utility side where they're delivering you the power, right? Non-negotiable things that it's done in the court system with the public utility commissions as far as what kind of rates they distribute to their ratepayers, right? They distribute the rates, you pay the rates, right? The consumer. And then that's the end of it, the consumer at the end, right? So you have the supplier, the distribution. Suppliers usually called generation, transmission. People that own the power plants, operate the power plants, as well as own the transmission lines. Then you have the utilities that are delivering you all the way downstream, all the way to your meter at your home or your site, right? Finally, like I was mentioning, where we come in is the supply side. So we're competitively getting into how do you want to buy the electricity? Because there are different ways we get into that, I'm sure. And then who's the best market price available for the companies that all compete,
right?
For
all the superlayers,
a megawatt, 10 megawatts, 100 megawatts, they'll compete for that. That's competitive in some places. When it's not competitive, that's where it's all, or, you're a industrial customer. Here's your rate. It could change every quarter. It could change every year.
Right.
Right. So it's
okay.
It's a little different.
Okay.
But those are the two markets, the regulated side, the vertically integrated side, and the deregulated side, which Veribi is in.
Yeah.
Right.
In Texas.
Okay. And that's where it's a very competitive market. Right.
Which gives us advantage. And that's why we can source the rates we have for our customers. If you do it wisely.
Electricity is a very complicated thing to talk about. Like, you're talking about an electron that's priced, right? You have to consume it the moment that it's produced, right, and generated. So, and there's a future aspect to it. So it's very complicated, and you have to have all of that market intelligence to really, at the end of the day, figure out what is the most economical way to purchase electricity for the type of consumer you are.
And we could talk hours about this. Yeah, that's for sure.
The strategy is it's how Veribi is positioned in the electricity market. You not necessarily competing with other types of, what we call loads or consumers, right?
Other miners.
Yeah, it could be either any industrial
or any other larger loads.
Yeah, they have their own strategies, right? And it's all based on the risk that you're willing to tolerate, and we can get into what that risk is and things. So
different strategies.
Yeah, there's and ERCOT is different than PJM, is different than the Ontario ISO, right? The Independent System Organization or Operator.
You touched on different grids. You touched on my next question. I wanted to ask you about, or ask you to explain ERCOT. What is ERCOT? In 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean when we talk about ERCOT and Texas market? Like, is it equal, or is it only part of the market? And what is actually ERCOT's function in the market?
It is a very long answer.
I'll give you
what is ERCOT?
Limit.
The Electricity Reliability Council of Texas.
Okay.
I think that's right.
So they make sure everything's working.
I think that's the acronyms over the 10 years have blended so far.
I think you got it right.
It is the grid. I mean, it is 96% of the entire state of Texas.
But they don't own the grid, right?
They are a nonprofit organization that, to be very kindergarten, I usually call them like a Magellan type of like entity, how they operate.
Okay.
Right? They're highly regulated, obviously, but they're managing all the all those, what we talk about, the generation, transmission, they have to communicate all of that stuff together.
So they tell people you need to do this, you need to do that, and like kind of manage
Generators. Yeah, they're managing supply and demand. For the peak was 86,000 megawatts, right, this year. So that's one state. PJM, there's 13 states, including D.C., Washington, D.C. So you have different, New York, where we sit, it's its own grid. New York Independent System Operator. Independent, right? They have
How
their
big
own.
is PJM compared to?
PJM's peak, 146,000 megawatts.
But it covers 13 states?
13 states, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. That's, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, PJM. So, but ERCOT is, they are like the electric grid and the primary, the majority of the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
ERCOT is an energy only market. So they originally, the design of ERCOT was to get generators and be incentivized to come there and build generation, because there was a marketplace essentially in a wholesale way where you can give, or you can bid in, you could, as a generator, you could say, okay, my price for electricity is X, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ERCOT would like kind of facilitate this ability for consumers to purchase this through the suppliers, like we talked about.
Okay.
Right. And again, we can go on for a long time about that, but essentially it's the grid. They govern a lot of the wholesale real-time settlement price points and how all of that is. We can get into
real-time settlement price point.
Oh yeah,
let's get into that.
Wow, that's a fancy.
So our very big, listeners, customers, of course they're mining Bitcoin with us, and they want the energy price to be as low as possible to make mining as profitable as possible, right?
Yeah.
And so we buy power on the wholesale market, right? And
there is a wholesale market, but you're technically a retail consumer. Okay.
Retail consumer, but our price changes every 5 minutes. So it's not like a household who just pays the same.
There's not a fixed price.
There's no fixed price. We have very volatile energy price. Now, can you break it down for us briefly? What's included in the energy price? Like,
so it's
just energy. Is it just the energy? Is it just the generation, or is there something else on the way?
Yeah.
Until it gets all the way to us, to our mining site.
I'll start with a simple equation. Supply plus delivery equals your total electricity costs.
Mm-hmm.
The delivery side is the regulated side. That's the utility costs.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, it's called the Transmission Distribution System Provider cost.
Mm-hmm.
And they're investor-owned utilities, they're co-ops, they're municipalities sometimes. Okay, and that's the local, what's called local distribution company.
Okay.
Right? To your meter, those are the regulated charges, right? The supply on the demands, or the supply delivery side. The supply side, well, the delivery side has multiple components, which I won't get into. So there's a lot when you just say, okay, the delivery charge, is it one component? No. There's like 15 components.
Yeah, we don't need to go into
the supply is a little bit easier, and actually Texas is one of the states that has the least amount of supply components inside of it, right? So you say, okay, what's the supply cost? You unbundle that, and you say there's energy, there's congestion, there's ancillary services as a customer. So, you're the rep is buying them for you, and then it's a cost to you as a consumer. There's a renewable portfolio standard, which is a state governed way that the reps have to buy renewable energy certificates. Mm-hmm. That's a cost to you as a consumer. There's line loss charges. There's ERCOT charges. There's supplier fees. There's broker fees. And inside of, so the transmission is on the delivery side, ultimately, which I can the main cost on the delivery side is the transmission cost recovery factor, which we can get into what that is and when we talk about 4CP maybe. The biggest charge on the supply side is the energy component, and it's an electric energy charge. And there's three components of that, right? Which we can get into: the ORDC adder, Operation Reserve Demand Curve adder, okay, the LMP settlement, with the LMP with the locational marginal price. Most people refer to what you were talking about earlier, the energy costs. That's what people refer that as. But there's three components in that one component of the 7 components. I'm saying components a lot.
No, when I see the bill we get every month,
That's the point. You have all these line items.
Like there's like 30 line items, and we have very good visibility and transparency.
And that's what you need, and that's what we provided you, right? To give you who's going to provide the best transparent price. Like, I want to know every single cent.
Exactly.
That's what we want. That is on an electricity invoice. And, we had suppliers fight hard to give you that service. And to your point, finally, that there is a lot of components, right? I call them cost coefficients, actually, because there's, there's different line items there that are different costs, and there's different definitions to what they are, but we handle the supply side, and that's the competitive side.
And you mentioned on the supply side congestion.
Yep.
And we don't need to talk about different zones within ERCOT market.
Yeah.
But what drives the congestion charges or fees? And what does it mean, actually?
There's a physical aspect, there's a financial aspect, and definitions to both in that same, what is congestion?
Mm-hmm.
Line capacity. So think about like a water pipe and it's only this much full. Mm-hmm. There's only a certain amount of capacity that's going to add over,
or you can push.
Electricity is flowing the same way through copper ultimately,
Yeah, right.
And in physical wires, all the way from now, Texas is going to be the second 745,000 kilovolt line is coming in West Texas. It's Permian Basin reliability.
Going to be a big help. So
yeah, we talked about that earlier this year, but it'll take some time. These are big wires, right? A lot of electricity, but if there's not enough, if something, generator comes offline, or something happens to a substation or some physical attribute, I don't want to get too far there. It could affect the price of congestion, right? Mm-hmm. If the wind falls asleep, it can affect the price of congestion. And you saw that this summer and this is in Cross West. It's, other places. But West in particular, where you saw, what is congestion? It's hub. So generators, right? That's the price at the hub. There's a pricing hub. Think of like hub and spoke, right? Wheel. They price that. And then to get it to the load where all the consumers are, like yourself, there's a price to get it to there. And that's as simply as I can put it for right now. We don't have enough time. But the price of the hub would be $40 a megawatt hour or 4 cents a kilowatt hour. And the price to the zone where all the consumers are is 6 cents, 7 cents, 8 cents.
Right. And we have seen it a lot over this summer.
So, and finally, I'll put with that, like what is affecting that congestion cost. I mean, there is a significant amount of demand growth, load growth in West Texas in particular. The supply, the generation is only coming on so much. And there's a lot of wind, there's a lot of solar, there's a lot of gas, right? So, and that's the electric generation. And so when any of that stuff kind of tips over, it's a very,
And it can be even very short term, right? Like sure. until ERCOT balances is out,
This year there were the hub price and even the zone price for electricity was negative pricing in West. So there's actually more demand, or there's more supply than the actual demand is. So it's instead of shutting the generation down, it'd be easier just to pay for it because they know it won't be forever. It's not going to be negative pricing for 7 days in a row, right? Like in Uri when it was $9,000 for 7 days in a row. It's crazy. And we'll get into that, but it's a terrible time. for more ways than one. But still,
So you said 9,000. Where is it kept at right now?
5,000.
5,000.
So that's
That's 500 cents. Yes. Right?
yes,
Yes. Yes.
5,000 cents per kilowatt hour. Okay, so you're paying that cost. So if you were on, just think about that for a second. If you were online, so you mentioned like you have a agreement in place where you're buying electricity a certain way, which is it could be volatile. It's like a cash price for electricity, or it's what is the price of electricity? 5 minutes. What is that? You're buying that. If you had any amount of electricity online during Winter Storm Uri during February 14th to February 21st of 2021, you would be paying 500 cents a kilowatt hour.
It's crazy.
Okay. And I'm talking, even if you were to shut down, if you have one light bulb on or something, like small amount of electricity, it was just it affected the entire market. What happened, not just in Texas, the entire supply, retail electric supply in a lot of different entities, and in fact, the PUCs and ERCOT, everybody changed, new people.
So do you think now ERCOT is more prepared for similar storms or similar natural disasters?
I mean, that's a crystal ball, right? I mean,
They have been working on
I would say that there's plenty of smart people that understand the issue of nobody wants to ever, I mean, my God, people died, right? Because of what happened there. That's a fact, it's a tragedy. Nobody wants to go through that again.
Right.
Especially if, a lot of the, PUCs, and they're energy professionals in their own rights, oil and gas, all these different energy entities, they're solid people. They're smart people. To go through that is terrible, So I would say, yeah, I mean, they're definitely in a much better, and there was rules in place where they had to, beef up do maintenance and not more maintenance, but like weatherize, weatherize the generation assets for winter. Because think about it. Who expects 40 degrees at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 30 degrees? Fahrenheit. In ERCOT, it was 10. In Dallas, it was 10 degrees for days.
That's crazy.
So it's and that changed a lot of the market, the volatility, and all of that. So it was a rough time, but it shaped a lot of how suppliers act now, right? How they view customers like yourself. Do you consume power in a time where you don't, everybody else needs it, like the residential customers need it, but you guys can shut down for a few hours, and there's some kind of mutual,
We'll get into that in a minute.
Sure.
Sorry, we are recording this in the park, and there's a lot of children around us, so I apologize for that noise.
We can sign up here, but
where we can. I think we can continue. I think he's getting a bottle. No, he's not getting a bottle. He
has to get out. He wants to listen to us.
Oh, maybe he wants to listen to how.
Look, if a kid would be smart, I mean, if he wants to understand energy markets, it's a great time to enter the industry.
Yeah,
energy industry is growing significantly.
I totally agree.
So
I totally agree. I think that's where the potential in money is right now.
Grids are changing, rapidly. I just had a meeting today where there is a significant nuclear renaissance happening.
Oh, nice.
A lot of people trying to deploy small modular reactors and big nuclear plants, hundreds of megawatts. Texas has nuclear power, right? It's not as much as it was 10 years ago, but it's still there. It's a very costly bit, it's a lot. It is a huge undertaking to make sure people have the ability to plug miners in to containers, and it is a huge.
Yep.
And that's why I was going back to what I was saying. It's very difficult when you really, electricity is easy. We just spin this up. We wire a couple things, and boom, you go. It is extremely. I commend people who are trying to build generation and secure electricity for people. I mean, there's 2 billion people that literally don't have access like what we're doing now. Like they don't have any access to this at all. Like they can't. There's no wires, right? In some places in the world, it's kind of interesting when you peel that onion back a little bit. Anyway, so what?
You little bit branched out.
Yeah,
but
more general comment.
So we talked about the power costs, and
Yeah.
you already talked about it a little bit. But if you look at the power cost, you said sometimes it can be negative, right? But that's the energy component. So it doesn't mean that we are getting money back. We are still paying all the other charges, which it's like the distribution side and delivery side and taxes and all that stuff.
Texas,
Taxes in Texas.
in Texas, that's right.
But what factors impact the price, the cost? And now I'm talking night versus day, summer versus winter.
Yep.
And what does it mean for us? We are a load, which has certain capabilities, to curtail and so on. So what does it mean for us?
So you have a certain type of structure on how you buy electricity. So I'll start with each individual person, company has a certain way in these competitive markets that they prefer from a budget. It could be a budget perspective. It could be a cost perspective. Like we just want the cheapest number. So I would start with that, okay, so now we have a specific strategy. Okay. There are certain components that are subject to market volatility, like the energy, like the congestion, right? The distribution or the delivery side is highly dependent on how you consume the actual power, right? So it's kilowatt hours divided by kilowatts times the number of hours in a total billing cycle.
Right.
So 30 days, 31 days, it could be weekly, could be daily, right? So it's all energy per unit time ultimately is how you're getting charged as a consumer on the delivery side and also on the supply side as well, right? So the supply side, the energy side, it's settled every 15 minutes in ERCOT specifically. So every 15 minutes, that energy cost, you can monitor it and view it, and that and you can say, okay, like you can pull up on your phone right now and see what the price is.
Yeah,
sure. And that is the energy charge to you, plus the congestion, which gives you it gives you the full zone energy price. You still have ancillaries, you still have losses, you still have RPS fees and things like that.
And we talked about the congestion. So what impacts the energy portion, like day versus night? So what happens during the day? Maybe if you can walk through like the 24-hour cycle, wind, solar, like all that stuff, like how it affects the.
So solar's easy, right? Sun up, energy on.
Yeah.
Good, right? Wind likes the nighttime, so that's why you see like a lot of the wind generation in ERCOT. It'll start ramping up in the night, especially in like West Texas. There's no trees there, so the wind will.
Yeah.
If the wind will come, it will blow for acres and acres and acres, miles. But generally speaking, weather is a component of that, right? Generation, how it's performing. Is it on? Is it off? Is there some planned maintenance? Is there congestion in the wires, right? And so, solar likes the on peak. You mentioned the times of day. They like on peak, right? Sun up, good. Right now it's 5:41 Eastern. The sun is getting, it's starting to get tired, right? Not in Texas. In Texas, it's 4:41 and it's still going, right? And you can look at the price. You could say, okay, solar, good. A lot of solar in ERCOT now, 2025. A lot of wind. give or take, it's like over 50,000 megawatts that can pretty much go when needed and perform. When the solar comes down, though, what needs to pick it back up, right? There's gas, there's nuclear, there's other types of generation, but primarily you can't have the solar work at night. So unless they have batteries and things for emergency purposes and things like that, but the wind needs to start picking up. And what we saw in August in particular was that when the ramp schedule of when the solar ramps down to the wind ramping up, that kind of
Wedge.
the wind. So the solar way up here, you got 20,000 maybe megawatts or 25,000 even some, but then it starts ramping down. But you need to it's like a relay race. You need to pass the baton to the wind. But the wind was like, okay, but they're kind of just chilling already. They're not. It's not ramping.
It's still waking up. So.
And it has to meet the load, right? So, like, if there's demand growth in West, when the wind is on and it's nighttime and like the oil and gas guys kind of slow down a little bit maybe and some load kind of curtails down, the miners want to stay on because if placed in a zone or a region properly, and some of the wind farms in Texas are 15 years old, some of them, right? They have been around a while, and the price as generated for the energy component can be cheap in those times, right? And there's numbers to prove the negative numbers you've seen, even to the zone, right? So,
definitely.
So,
but as you said, what we have seen over the summer, as the solar was going down at the end of the day, before the wind picked up, we saw like energy price going up temporarily. Yes. And then it came down again a couple hours later.
Right.
There's definitely some gap between these two.
Thank you for mentioning that, because that is the flip side of that coin. Who cares about it ramping up? The price goes in that passing of the baton. The price has spiked. Certain periods, and that's typically around the 7 o'clock-ish, 8 o'clock-ish range.
Yes, right. Right. And now one more question related to this. Fall, winter is coming. We're expecting lower temperatures, hopefully, even in Texas. What do you expect? Where do you think the energy prices will be compared to the summer? This summer, I think this summer felt a little bit different than like last year's summer for us. So where do you think it's going to be this fall and winter?
Oh,
okay.
First of all,
like no guarantee.
Well, sure, but it's.
Or if you generalize it,
this has been my question. I've been asked the same question for 10 years about, what are the future prices? Because that's ultimately what we function in. The future.
We would be millionaires already, right?
I know. I'd be, this park would be mine, if I knew where the market would go. And the good part about like mentors that I've had in my firm and stuff, and like folks that have taught me that I give a lot of, homage to, they've seen the market fluctuate, right? So like you asked like what the prices, they've been through Uri and 2008 and 9/11 and all these different, so they saw all of these volatile things happen, and they watch, these guys are procurement folks, so they watch the price of electricity and natural gas. So weather has a lot to do with it, right? I mean, there, and being a meteorologist is crazy, right? I mean, who's going to predict the weather? Nobody can. So in typically in shoulder months, okay, which we call shoulder months, they're basically, call it
October, November.
Yeah, October, November, little bit of December even, right? And also, end of February, maybe March, April, beginning of May. There's typically traditionally, really I should say historically, good pricing, right? In those times, it's, the load is really flat. There's not much heat. There's not much extreme cold, right? So that you have these kind of ebbs and flows. And right now, we're in New York City. It's 70 degrees probably, maybe less than that.
74.
It's 74. It's gonna get colder at night. It's gonna be probably in the high 60s maybe. So the stress of everything from electricity and gas, even, it's like they could breathe a little bit. And the pricing reflects that.
And we'll see how
And
the
summer
winter will be.
And the winter
Is unpredictable.
when Uri was February, right?
Yeah. There can be mild, and then it's going to be similar to the shoulder months. Or it can be crazy like Uri, and then it's going to be a problem too.
Uri was 2001, so that's 4 years ago. 2021. Sorry, not 2001. 2021. Okay, so it's 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And to your point earlier about, like, I do think there's been actions taken to be a little bit like, if it hits the fan again, we can do that. And there's been plenty of times in the summer and winter times where it's, in 2023 in Texas, it was 100 degrees for almost 11 weeks in a row every day. Over 100. Not all the time, but, and it gets hot there, as you know. I mean, your experience, it's I've been to West Texas. It's hot. There's nothing but scorpions and everything.
I don't have seen one. Every time I go to our site, I'm looking for scorpions and snakes. And I am not lucky.
But I say all that to say, like, weather really does drive a lot. It's a big component. We've given you weather reports, and
Yes,
to give you,
you do.
We watch that. We're not meteorologists though, right? But we have to watch, like, if there's this extreme cold and people are buying cash basis or a cash price for electricity, you're going to want to know that, because there's going to be, prepare for some volatility. You may need to curtail down and avoid price, right?
Mm-hmm.
It all comes back to how it's priced. So, and traditionally, on peak, it's higher price. Off peak in the night, after like 10 to 7 a.m., it's cheaper price.
Right.
The wind works on the pricing side, a little bit. So
overall, there's more supply in the market now because of all the extra solar and wind. At the same time, there's also a lot of demand and loads coming in. So
let me if you look at, like, think about, like, what is the peak time that everybody wants to use electricity? 5 o'clock, right? Everybody's home.
Yeah.
Resi's home.
Yeah.
Everybody's done work. Industrials, depending on if they have all the shifts, 24/7. They're kind of, they may be shutting down, or at least, like, not operating, winding down the operation. You look at the price during those 5 o'clock hours, 4 o'clock hours, it's cheap now. The LMPs, they're, now again, if it's 100, now see the weather okay, here comes weather. If it's 115 degrees in Texas, that's going to cause a little bit of change. But now you look at them, in some of the days you could see them in the 1.9 cent, 2 cent range.
I guess if it's sun at
4 o'clock,
it's not quite.
the solar is
Kicking in.
Yeah. And here's a nugget for you. The delta, the delta and the difference between a forward derivative price, like a forward fixed price for the energy component, versus the pricing how Veribip buys,
Right.
is almost 100%. Or, in other words, 35 or 3.5 cents to 5.5 cents or 6.5 cents, depending on your what's called load factor, how well you consume. Right. So you asked me, are we buying the cheapest way possible? Yes, you are.
Right now, the best strategy is what we are doing.
It's without a doubt
Under current conditions.
Under current conditions,
Market conditions.
under current. Now that can change, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
You have that's the risk, right? But the best part about folks like yourself, is that you can mitigate the risk by curtailing down. You don't have to, you don't have to buy. You don't want to. It's not that you don't want to buy because you're at a fixed price. It's just we don't have to buy because we're not at a fixed price, right? Fixed price is different. They had different.
And we are aware of that, of those options and possibilities, but So it's on our radar if, in case the market, shifts, changes, we know that we will need to go with different strategy. But right now,
I mean, the suppliers have commented how well you've performed,
Yeah.
So it's a truth. I was on the calls. So,
Yep.
But it goes to show you, like, and that goes a long way with the suppliers, right? If you're a good consumer, and that's, I think one of the questions you had in there is like,
I hope you found the first half of the interview interesting. Please make sure you check here next week when we will release the second half. And also, if you have questions or comments, leave it in the comments and we'll answer those. So thank you and see you next week. Bye.